I've got a great interview with Andrew Marr and Zack Polanski where he just bats off these gotchas, these simplistic and often just misinformed questions in the most nonchalant way. He's so good at this. The more he does it, the more the talking points about wealth taxes and immigration and deportation, he just bats them away like they're flies. Let's get straight into it because this is a really good clip.
Zack, welcome. Do you think this is a turning point for the left more generally?
I think we were already having that turning point, so I think what this has done has just added that momentum. What Zohran has really demonstrated is an absolute focus on affordability, on the mass inequality that is existing all around the world, but is really existing right here in the UK. When we unite working class people, middle class people, small business owners, the unemployed, and say ultimately we all have so much more in common than the 1%, that very small group of people who own our power, our wealth and our assets, and it's time to take it back.
You see, it's really, really interesting hearing you talk that way, Zack, because you are leader of the Green Party, but that is an absolutely classic radical socialist analysis. It's not really a Green Party analysis, it's a socialist analysis.
It's really not that radical, is it? The idea that people come together, they're basically the same, and it's a small amount of people that have all the wealth that are trying to divide us based on race, ethnicity, gender, religion, and we should just not kind of buy into their narrative. It's not that radical. People should be able to afford a house and get paid a fair wage. This is really not radical ideas.
Well, I don't think you can be an environmentalist without recognizing that same inequality, because actually the fossil fuel companies are some of the worst polluters. So I think this is about combining the environmental justice point with the affordability point. But what I think Zohran's really done is put people first. And there was a myth for a while that to be a successful left-wing candidate, you had to just focus on affordability. And that meant not talking about trans people or disabled people or migrants. And what Zohran has demonstrated beautifully is you can absolutely show solidarity to those minority groups, because inequality hits them even harder. So we need affordability for everyone.
And if you look at the way he campaigned, the way he won this victory, what lessons do you yourself learn?
I think a lot of it is about mobilizing the vote. I think there's some lessons that have been learned that are the wrong lessons. So there's a lot of focus on his social media and his communication style.
That's what I think of you see, in that regard.
Well, I was going to caveat that with saying he's an exceptional communicator, and I think the way he's used his social media is brilliant. And people very lovely say the same thing about me. But actually, I don't think it's about the messenger. I think it's about the message. And I think affordability is what's resonating. Now, if you don't have good communication, and if you don't have good social media, no one's going to hear you. So I think it's about both pillars. But very often
Yeah, I think Lewis Goodall tried to use this as a means to dismiss the message, and liberals will try and do this, and right wingers say, "Oh, it's just social media. Oh, it's just noise and excitement." No, what is the underlying message? And it is resonating: wealth taxes, affordability, cost of living, and they don't like that because Labour aren't interested in that, Reform are not interested in that, so it scares the establishment that he's offering a viable alternative.
Focus on the way we communicate rather than the actual message itself, which is about...
is always more important.
Well, lowering bills and taxing billionaires, I think, is an incredibly important message.
Let me come on to a bit of your message. First of all, after my conversation with the Chancellor yesterday, is the Green Manifesto at the last election still something you stand by or not?
I stand by it now. I think it is always important that you look at new evidence, you listen to more experts, and you keep refining the policy. But I think what's not ever going to change in the Green Party is our values. And what we've seen in the Labour Party is Keir Starmer, elected under the coattails of Jeremy Corbyn as leader, with a whole series of pledges. He's ditched every single pledge, pretty much. And then we've got a Chancellor now who seems to be swerving all over the place in a very panicked style.
Let me come to your pledges, because basically you want to fund a lot of...
Yeah, he's like, let's not talk about how fucking shit the Labour Party are. Have you changed any of your pledges so we can make it seem like... No. Labour are done. And it's just so disappointing that Andrew Marr, New Statesman, is just... They're trying to support... I mean, they're critical of Labour, but Labour are done. Just embrace the Green Party, Andrew.
What you want to do by going for the very rich. People with more than £10 million of assets or wealth, you say. And this is a problem I think Mamdani is going to have as well, by the way. These days, the very rich are also very, very mobile. And they move fast when they want to. And there's a big danger that you are going for a few of the feathers of the geese as they fly off.
Well, it's interesting the comparison with Mamdani because they just brought in a wealth tax round about Manhattan, and actually what's happened is people haven't moved. Capital flight is very often an overblown myth because actually what we're talking about is assets, and it's not so easy to move assets. I think there's a much bigger issue here too, which is I think we should be patriotic about our country. I think we should know that people want to be here because they love our country, they love our culture, they love everything about our history and our tradition, not everything maybe, but most things. And so they don't want to just use it as a money pit to have assets and then take them away.
But it's it's easy to talk about patriotism and it's your duty to give me all your money, but they may feel
No, not all your money, 2% of the money. See, this straw man. And also as well, there are people leaving New York, but it's not just for tax reasons. Often it's cost of living, quality of life, and just how expensive it is to live in New York. The medium rent is $3,500. So you've got 8.5 million people. Most of those people rent. That's a lot of money, and it's expensive as well. Food, transport, childcare. That's why Mamdani has won, because he's going, okay, this is the most expensive city on the planet. Let's tackle this with a bit of wealth tax. No, they're not leaving. It's cost of living. But Andrew Marr knows he's lying here because all he wants is this simplistic narrative of gotchas, like, oh, we can't do wealth tax. Oh, your message is, surface level. That's what he's implying here, and it's really disappointing because, well, also to be expected, really.
very, very differently. And I come again to that. I mean, in America, for instance, quite a lot of people are leaving New York and are moving to the western states to avoid paying taxes. It has become easier than ever before. And I just wonder if the whole wealth tax thing, no other country
Not true. He's lying.
has a successful wealth tax at the moment. And there may be a reason for that. The wealth tax notion is
Also not true. Norway has one, Spain, Switzerland. And also, that's not a reason not to build up a wealth tax and make it a normalized thing. We haven't cured cancer, but that's not an argument not to attempt to cure cancer.
frankly out of date.
Well, I'd challenge the premise because I think Switzerland has a perfectly effective wealth tax and there's still lots of wealthy people living in Switzerland. But more widely to the point, I think this idea again of capital flight, it's, there's a group called Patriotic Millionaires.
I know about
it says
that.
what
Yeah,
it says on the tin. And they're saying taxes more because actually inequality hurts everyone. And a more affordable country ultimately impacts, yes, of course, the poorest for obvious reasons, but also wealthy people who own businesses, their team, their staff also need to live in a country where the public services run properly. I think there's a real sense in this country, and it's real, that things are broken, that our public services are broken, and actually the way to fix that is by proper public investment.
Let me ask you about one other big policy, which is migration. I don't think it's unfair to say that you would like Britain to be a stronger magnet for migrants. In other words, you want, for instance, migrants to get full citizenship as soon as they arrive, or full rights of citizenship as soon as they arrive, and that will encourage more people. But there is a big issue about population density in this country. England is already among the biggest countries, by far the most densely populated. And there's another generation of Green leaders, and I'm thinking of people like Jonathan Porritt, who are really, really worried about what you might call Green England and the purity of the water and biodiversity and all of that. And they feel that at this rate of increase of people, and I think we're talking at the moment about the equivalent of 5 or 6 new Birminghams in a decade, then actually this country's green nature, its biodiversity and its livability are going to be absolutely devastated. Are you not worried about the contradiction between being very, very pro-migration and at the same time wanting to be the guarantors of the sustainable nature of these islands for the decades and centuries ahead?
Well, to do that, we need to look at emissions per capita. And the important place to start with this conversation is that we live in one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world. So Jonathan Porritt is right to worry about our rivers and our nature. And we're right to say that we need to build council homes, for instance. But those homes need to be on brownfield sites and not greenbelt in the way that this government seemed determined to do. To the much wider question, though, we have an ageing population. We have 150,000 vacancies in our National Health Service alone. Now, of course, we need to train British workers, but ultimately, to make sure that we have working age people in order to pay into pension pots, we do need migrants in this country. And so that's not even an ideological position, it's just a pragmatic one.
All right. Just in terms, I mean, the issue there, of course, is that these migrant workers coming in to look after us will themselves grow old and need to be looked after. So there's a kind of Ponzi scheme going on there.
No, we need people. So people aren't having kids. So over generations, we just don't have workers. Is that the plan? We just don't have migrate, just out of spite. We the population of the UK just dwindles over the next few generations. What? What?
Well, I still think we've got a lot of space. So this idea that we don't have any space, I think, is a myth that's sometimes propagated. We just need to make sure that we build properly and densely.
Yeah, 6% of Britain is built upon. 2.3% of that is housing. The rest is roads and parking. 70% is farming arable land. We have plenty of space and we need to build dense cities. London has 8 million people. We need to build dense cities. These aren't mutually exclusive. See, it's this simple black and white thinking on, oh, you can't be pro migration or pro environment. No, you can be both. These aren't mutual. And that's all he wants is these gotchas like, oh, you're pro migration. Oh, well, you don't care about the environment, do you? No, we can deal with both and we need to.
Got two sex offenders now been released by mistake from British prisons. Do you think they should be deported?
I think if someone's committed a crime, then I think that is a different conversation to what is so often talked about. The small boats, for instance, are only 5% of immigration. I think more widely, though, this speaks to the problems of austerity.
What is that question? They should. So they've been let out by accident by the state. Should they be deported? What? I don't know. I don't get that question.
The problems of underfunding in the prison service. We had decades of conservative austerity, and now that's continued under the Labour government.
So take the example of today's story, the Algerian sex.
Okay, so just don't actually address what he says about austerity and underfunding the police and prisons that are just they're stretched to the end point at this point. They're working hard, underpaid, understaffed. Why do you think these things are happening? Massive cuts and more cuts planned, especially under reform as well. It would only get worse.
Offender, he should be deported.
Well, the point is that he should never have been released in the first place to then get deported.
I'm just looking for a clear answer on that.
No, you're looking for a gotcha, so just deport them. Okay, so anyone? Does that apply to just sex offenders or just any white people? So anytime a sex offender, they just get deported. What about drug dealer? What about someone who, maybe fraud? Do we deport? We're just deporting people now who are accidentally let out. Maybe the problem is the accidentally let out and the state there. Maybe they're responsible. Maybe we deport Keir Starmer. Maybe I don't know. Maybe just asking questions.
A straightforward question.
Well, I always want to answer a question directly, but it's also responsible to know the full details of the case. And because it's just happened today and I've been running around media studios, I don't know the full details of that case. What I can give you, though, is the principle, is that I want everyone in this country to abide by the law.
Yeah, he doesn't like that. Abide by the law and not just deport people randomly.
The extent that details are here, they're fairly clear now. He's 24, he's a sex offender, he's been released, he shouldn't have been released, and therefore, surely you think that he should be deported.
But where's the logic there? Okay, so he's a sex offender, so deport him? What? I don't get that. Maybe he should be caught and go back to prison and serve his time?
The point is that he should never have been released. And so that, again, comes down to the underfunding of the prison service.
Why can't you just say that he should be deported? I mean, if you're in favour of law and order and you're in favour of everybody here obeying the law, why can't you say that?
Because if someone served a sentence and then they shouldn't be released if they've served their sentence and they do it fully, if you're properly funding the prison service, then someone has effectively served the punishment for their crime, and you don't want to punish them twice.
So if they've done their time in jail, sex offender, migrant or not, they should then be released and allowed to live in the community.
As long as they've done their time, that's a fundamental principle of...
What? No, they should just be locked up. So any crime you commit, you can never be rehabilitated. And what?
Justice. What's happened here, though, from what I understand, is the underfunding of the prison service means they've been released too early.
He would never ask this question if he was not a migrant. This is racism right here. This is racism. The fact that, sex offender, bad. You should not do that. I don't think that's a controversial statement. But he was released early by the state. Therefore, he should be deported. I don't see the logic of that?
And that's a problematic situation, but that's a different question to the one you're asking me.
I think we have cleared it up. Zack Polanski, thank you very
No, you haven't. He's given a nuanced answer. You're conflating different things. Just deport people because they've been released early. I just don't get that. And he would only be saying that because he's only saying that because it's a migrant. He would never say that about a white person. Just weird. Just weird. And they don't know how to deal with him. It's like, oh, we can't tax people, they flee. Oh, what about pro-migration? Oh, you don't care about the environment. They clearly are grasping at straws because he's popular, he answers questions directly, and he's surging in the poll with young people. They know he is good. They know there's a reason why he's doing well, and they know it. He's a threat to the establishment. Andrew Marr is a puppet of the establishment. He is. He may be centrist, but he just wants the same old, same old. People are sick and tired of it. They want real change. So hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Join the membership from 99 pence a month, and I'll see you in the next video.